this is about politics. I get that. Politics is politics. But, honestly, you knock on the door of a daycare center and you're like, let me in, let me in. What do you expect people to do? In some of those cases, there were children in there. What do you want people to do in that situation? Open the door and say, come on in, when they know that the Somali community is under attack, is being threatened every single day?
We'll give you a good try on that one, Abby. We'll give you a good try, Ribbon, because you're completely nuts. It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka sitting in for my friend Chris Plant. And CNN attempting to defend the Somali scam in Fraudistan? I don't get it. Wouldn't you want to get to the bottom of it? And curious that Abby Phillip would say it's normal for the Somali daycare operators to be afraid of Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley is a skinny white dude wearing a hoodie and carrying a camera. And he's got an older gentleman named David behind him, and they're standing there with pieces of paper. But you want to say he's afraid? And he didn't come barging in. He stood outside and said, I would like to talk about a place for my son for daycare. And there were no children. And in almost every one of the places that Nick Shirley went to, there were no children. There may have been a couple of children at one spot. So I don't understand it, CNN. What does it benefit you to take up the case for the grifters, the alleged grifters? It just doesn't make any damn sense. And there are over 1 billion reasons for you to be concerned. Now, just so you think, this is ridiculous. This is a very rare case. I point to the story of a restaurant in Minneapolis called Safari. Safari is a small restaurant, seats 35 people. They applied to a government program to feed hungry children. Now, we know there are hungry children. We're told there are children that go to bed hungry every day, and it is a heartbreaking story. And you would say, yeah, one of the government's roles is to try and help kids that don't have a good meal. Because we know how important it is for kids that go to school. If they're hungry, they can't think straight. They can't learn. The cycle of poverty can't be broken, etc. But here in the case of the Safari restaurant, the math isn't mathing. And this comes from the Rojas report that looked into this. Physical reality, Minneapolis restaurant, seats 35 people. They claimed, due to the billing that they gave to the federal government, and this all comes from federal government payment sourcing, that's where all the details come from. This one restaurant said they were serving 18,000 meals every day. Just think about it. You've got 35 seats, and you're telling the federal government that you're helping feed the children. You're helping feed the children. And you're doing it very successfully. You're actually serving 18,000 meals per day to hungry children, and the federal government paid them for every single one of them. The children didn't exist. The meals didn't exist. The money did. And it's gone. Whistleblowers apparently were ignored. This story is just coming out. We need to keep our eyes on it. Absolutely need to keep our eyes on it. It's beyond the daycare centers. It's beyond the health care centers that didn't bring health care. It is beyond the Feed the Children scam. It's beyond everywhere you look. There is a scam that has apparently been perpetrated on the taxpayers of Fraudistan. It's just so infuriating. And then there is the governor who, he just, remember Walsh was the guy that was brought into the ticket with Kamala because he could talk to white guys.
But I also was on the ticket, quite honestly, because I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, doing that.
Yeah, he could code talk to white guys watching football and fixing their truck. It's amazing we weren't more insulted by this.
That I could put them at ease. I was the permission structure to say, look, you can do this and vote for this. Look,
you could do for this and vote for this. That was then. This is now.
Look, it's not law-abiding citizens. If that were the case, there's a lot of white men should be holding a lot of white men accountable for the crimes that they have committed. And, for every crime, which, of course, the majority being committed by white men, asking us to do more about that, I think it's crime in general.
So now the line of defense for what's going on in Fraudistan is that, hey, white people commit more crime than the Somali community. Well, if you want to look at sheer numbers, because you have more people, you're probably going to see more crime in terms of raw numbers, but let's talk percentage. Never mind that. This is going to be the new argument. Trust me, this is going to be the argument they're going to try and pass on to us. I'm busy keeping my eyes on several different stories, one of them being whether or not we're going to have an issue with our friends in Taiwan with China, because China is doing military exercises. President Trump says he's not worried. He's not worried. I don't trust Xi Jinping as much as the president does, but I'll keep my eyes on this. As of the moment, there is no new update to that story. China's doing military exercises around Taiwan. Taiwan has its Air Force on alert. So that's a little unnerving, right? I think so. And then we are days away, literally 2 days away, from the swearing in of a new mayor in America's largest city, in New York City. Zohran Mamdani will be the mayor of New York. And New York's not waiting. They're already doing something ridiculous. And this isn't getting much attention. New York just passed something called the COPA Act, C-O-P-A. The COPA Act. What the heck is the COPA Act? The COPA Act is a law that will literally force New Yorkers to allow the city to bid on a building. If it's a building that has, let's say, 4 units in it, if you've got a small multifamily property in New York City, and there are thousands of them all over the city that might have 3 or 4 apartments in it, the city now has the right, if you want to sell it, to say that you have to offer it to a nonprofit first. I just want you to try and wrap your head around this. This was discussed yesterday with New York City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino speaking out against it.
In regard to what we're just talking about now, COPA, how wrong can a person be or a body of a government be when we start to take the individual rights away from the homeowner, whether it's a 2-family house, 3-family house, 4-family house, what does it matter?
Now, this really is a little bit disturbing, because when I first heard this, I said, they can't be doing that in New York. And remember, this is even before Mamdani is sworn in. He may not be as much of an outlier to the thinking of New Yorkers as we believe. Check this out.
The fact is the person owns the home. They have the right to sell the home to whomever they please.
That seems like a reasonable thing. You've got a building. It has 3 other apartments in it. You've got an income-generating small building, which many people do in the city of New York, in the 5 boroughs of New York. And now the city comes in and says, You want to sell that? Hold on a second. Just wait 1 minute.
The idea that we have to consult with the building department and give a 6-month period of time for someone else to make an offer is absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, so that's the reality now. You have this property and you want to sell it. You're an individual. You're not a corporation. You're not a multinational real estate gobbling corporation. You're just a person who wants to sell your building. And the city of New York is now saying, before you do that, you have to let nonprofits and certain governmental and NGOs come in and bid on it.
And to say it's government overreach is 100% true.
Yeah.
This is absolutely maniacal. I do not understand how this body works when it comes to individual citizens of this city. This is overreach at its very best. I'm a homeowner, and no one is going to tell me or anybody else I know that's worked so damn hard to own a 3 or a 4 family home that I have to submit the ability to sell my house first to the building department and then offer it up to a non-for-profit when my neighbor across the street may want to buy it.
So interesting. You have a neighbor who's sitting across the street from you who says, yeah, I paid off my mortgage. I'd like to have another income-generating property. I'll buy your house. The city of New York is now saying, no, you can't do that. You have to offer it through the buildings department to a nonprofit. This is scary stuff, but it's not pretend. It's the reality.
And they have to wait 6 months? Nonsense. This is absolutely ridiculous. And also, I want to just add to this hearing today, this meeting today, that it's absolutely ridiculous. And everybody in this room should be terribly embarrassed that we stripped our veterans' bills today from today's hearings. Why? Why? When the men and women of this country deserve better treatment, and our city today that we passed in committee has failed to come through for our veterans.
So what they did was they tabled a bunch of bills that would help veterans in order to push through this COPA Act. New York City is in deep trouble. And I know I'm not just talking about what's going to happen if and when the mayor tries to enact his higher taxes. There's going to be a whole lot of questions that will need to be answered, and people will be keeping a close eye on what happens in New York City because it's going to be moving pretty quickly. If you want to sell your building, you now have to tell the city, and they have to offer it to nonprofits. And if a nonprofit doesn't want to buy it, but somebody else puts up an offer, if your neighbor makes an offer, then you have to give the city 6 months to find someone else to match it. Someone else that they decide deserves to buy your building over someone who said, no, I want to pay for it. This is now going to destroy the market-based economy. I don't want to get wonky when it comes to real estate and economics, but this is the government setting the prices. This is the government determining who can own what. And Mamdani is not even in office yet. He will be in 48 hours. We're just around the corner from Mayor Mamdani, actually less than 48 hours. And don't even get me started on who he appointed to be the head of the fire department. Very nervous for New York City. And we should, while we're talking about the isolation of billionaires, we should talk about what Ro Khanna is embracing for California. The billionaire tax. We'll get into all of it. You want to join the conversation? You're welcome to. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is The Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. We are pushing and pushing to get to the new year and get everything covered. A lot of stories out there. Whole bunch of stories. And also a lot of opinions 888-630-9625. Let's grab a call. Don is in Chicago listening on the great WLS. Hello, Don. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Michael, thanks for filling in. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, brother.
Yes, thank you. The same thing's going on in the city of Chicago, as you probably are well aware. The city of Chicago and the state of Illinois are literally bankrupt. So they have to sell their debt and bonds. And because we have such a low bond rating, I'm talking about the city of Chicago specifically, their bond rating is so low, most bond agencies don't even want to touch them. But they found one that would, and they put them up for sale last Monday, and they had to stop the sale because no one was buying them.
Wow.
So it's critical mass time, and you can't, the state, in all their wisdom decades ago, declared that we can't file bankruptcy. So that's like declaring death illegal, and it's ridiculous. So I don't know what they're going to call it, insolvency or whatever they're going to call it, but the reality is the reality. We're going to be broke, and there's no more money, and we can't print any.
Yeah, well, don't write that off, Don. There might be a way that they will say we now have a new currency, the new Chicago bucks. There may be a good.
It's the city of Chicago. Yeah, we can set up printing presses in all the cemeteries. Yeah, for sure.
That's it. Brandon bucks. We'll start printing Brandon bucks and put them out everywhere. Oh God, I shouldn't say that out loud because somebody will think it's actually a good idea. Whew. I take that back. Yeah, I'm very nervous about some of the structures crumbling underneath these cities. Now, there is one interesting thing. Heritage Foundation economist E.J. Antoni talked to me last night. We were having a conversation, and he said all these pension plans for the states actually were on really murky turf before Donald Trump came back in. And now the Trump economy, which has been very good for 401ks and very good for the stock market, obviously, but all these states that had pension funds that were over leveraged have been bolstered. So Trump's been really good for Chicago's pension fund, for Illinois' pension fund, for California's pension fund, but they'll never thank him for it. And that may be what keeps them at least out of defaulting for a short period of time, but I did not know the city declared it could not declare bankruptcy. Everybody else can, but we can't. So we can't go broke. Crazy stuff. Thank you, Don. Did you have a nomination, a choice for the naming of the snowplow?
Yeah, the Al Sharpton.
Don't worry.
The Al Sharpton. No, we're not talking about a plow that moves a bunch of BS. We're talking about moving snow. Interesting. I thought it'd be like the Hunter Biden, but it would have to vacuum the snow up. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show.
I probably smoke more Parmesan cheese than anyone that you know. I went one time for 13 days without sleeping and smoking crack and drinking vodka exclusively throughout that entire time.
Yeah, Hunter Biden, that would be a good name to put on the Chicago snowplows, right? You could, boy, would that be funny. And maybe you put like a picture of him with the straw on the plow so it looks like he's blowing the snow out the way he did the paintings that are now worth nothing. And who does own those paintings? Where are all those paintings? Such an important player in the art world for 8.5 minutes. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant of the Chris Plant Show. Tomorrow we'll do our wrap-up on the year and look back on some of the more important days and moments of the past 12 months. And trust me, there have, as you know, because you were here, you remember a lot of them, I'm sure. And there were many, 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 and some pretty strange ones, too. We did get a pope. We got a new pope, American pope, finally elected. Habemus Papam. I remember when the words crossed, and I said, who is it? Oh, it's Pope Leo. And he's a Chicago guy, which I thought that's great. And I'm starting to hear some interesting things from the Pope. One of the statements he made yesterday has got some people scratching their heads. And I got to say, I'm okay with what this Pope is saying. He is concerned about the loneliness that has swept the country among people that are either living alone or by themselves. And curiously, Pope Leo XIV tied it to something that is kind of ubiquitous in our lives these days, in case you missed it.
Le nostre città conoscono purtroppo forme di emarginazione, violenza.
Okay, I'll translate. The Pope is saying many of you are familiar with the marginalization of communities, individuals due to violence and loneliness.
Solitudine.
Yeah.
Che chiedono di essere affrontate.
And it must be confronted.
Vorrei richiamare l'attenzione, in particolare, sulla piaga del gioco d'azzardo.
The Pope is saying he would like to call particular attention to the rise in gambling. The Pope is worried about what he calls a scourge, that gambling has got people looking down at these apps and thinking that this is going to be, I guess, the easy way to riches, and it's becoming a way of isolating people. Very interesting for the Pope to weigh in on gambling. I just wonder if bingo will be taken out of my local church. Just throwing that out there, but it really is fascinating to me. I'm one of the people who doesn't partake in all of that, and I find it distracting when I'm trying to watch a game and everybody says, you could have a 17 parlay that'll pay off $30 billion for a nickel. No, I just want to watch the game. But that's me. The phones have been absolutely on fire today, so let's take a couple of calls here and see what's going on. John is in Chicago. Hello, John. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Mike, good morning to you. How are you doing?
I'm great, sir. Thanks for being here. What's on your mind?
Great job filling in for Chris. I just wanted to tell you that the City of New York has taken something out of the Chicago playbook, because Chicago has an ordinance in place now in selected neighborhoods. It's called the TOP program, Tenant Opportunity to Purchase. I don't know a lot. I don't know a lot about it because I am outside the area by 3 blocks. But what it does, it gives, if the landlord's going to sell his rental property, he has to give the tenants first right of refusal to purchase the building. And along with that, they also have the opportunity to assign that right of first refusal to anybody.
Whoa!
Without the owner's consent. And the other major aspect of that bill is that once the property is purchased, it has to be maintained as a rent-restricted, affordable housing for at least 30 years.
This, John, this is stunning. So you're saying the city of Chicago already has enacted this law that says if I own a rental property and I'm going to sell my rental property, I have to first give the right to purchase option to the people who are current tenants in that property?
Yes.
And who decides
who
decides value? Who decides what's fair value? Because the market used to decide. I'm the son of the greatest estate appraiser in the history of real estate appraisal, and that is not an exaggeration. My dad was one of the great minds in terms of understanding real estate appraisal, and the market value was always what a willing buyer and a willing seller agreed upon without duress. So who decides what's fair value?
I believe the seller can determine the price. And I know right now it's limited to the neighborhoods of Avondale, Hermosa, Humboldt Park, Logan Square, and Westtown. And that's primarily because those have been the neighborhoods of, gentrification. So the city's trying to, curb this gentrification and preventing displacement, not allowing free market.
This is social engineering. Absolutely. This is bad. This is a bad idea. But the fact that, as you're reporting to me, I don't have the law in front of me, that the renter can effectively basically hand over the opportunity to anyone they deem worthy? That's written into this legislation?
Yes, it's an ordinance. You can look it up. It's called I know Chris is a very large research department over there, like NPR.
Yes, it's called Grok.
I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. It's called the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase. It's called the TOP program, and it's an ordinance went into effect the 1st of January 2025, and they started enforcing it March 1st of 2025. You can look it up.
I will.
I'm going to do a little more research myself because, like I said, I'm 3 blocks outside of the neighborhood, fortunately, because I live in a 4-unit building, which I own. And
can you imagine?
I don't plan on selling it. But.
John, can you imagine if the city came in and said, "Hey, John, we hear you're going to sell your property. You have to offer it first to a bunch of city-approved nonprofits before you can do anything." How would that make you feel?
It would be terrible. It's just it really pushes rents up for the people that are getting displaced because now landlords aren't going to sell, and it's just going to tighten the supply.
That's a great point. And my point always is this social engineering never worked. We saw it in the Soviet Union. We've seen it everywhere that people try and come in and regulate behavior, and you can't. What a horrible idea. The TOP program. I'll be looking into this. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Did you have a name for the snowplow? Because we're offering up names.
Man, I don't have one, but I'm going to come up with one. I like the one with Hunter Biden. I've got to get a little creative here, and I'll call in tomorrow, okay?
Okay, good. Thank you, John. Appreciate you. Rod is in Arkansas listening to the Chris Plant Show. Hello, Rod. Welcome to the program.
Howdy. I would name that snowplow Let's Go Brandon.
Well, it works for the mayor, too, though, you know.
Yeah, yes, it would. And you're really going, I'd put it on all 4 sides. Everybody could read it. And I would put it in block letters so the young people could read it because cursive don't work for them anyway.
Well done.
I don't think TOP or COPA is constitutional under the right of self-determination. But if I really wanted to sell my building, I'd simply jack the rate through the ceiling until everybody moved out. Then I'd get rid of it. So there wouldn't be any tenants involved. It'd all be gone a long time ago.
That works in Chicago. But the reality in this New York law is if you as the owner want to sell your property, you have to give the city the opportunity to buy it first. And if somebody else eventually makes an offer, then you still have to come back and go, hey, I have an offer, but you have 6 months, which effectively delays your sale for 6 months, which is going to kill the real estate market.
Well, it's already dead whenever the Mondami won. The Wall Street people are talking about moving to, I don't know, Florida, someplace else. They're going to lose their whole city. And I hope every left-leaning guy out there is watching New York, city, state, and county evolve into third level of hell, because that's what's going to happen to you if you go the socialist way, because it's only socialism until you run out of somebody else's money. Then it's communism.
That's true. And the reality here is, Rod, as a guy who lived in New York City, I lived on the corner of 54th and 2nd Avenue for 20-plus years. I actually liked New York City. And if you can afford to live in New York City, it was a great city with a lot to offer. But since the era of Big Bird, the Warren Wilhelm version of New York, that's the guy who changed his name to Bill de Blasio so he'd sound more New Yorkish and became mayor, it's gone downhill. And it's gone in a terrible direction. But America can't afford to lose New York to communism. And I'm very concerned about it. And you've got the governor of New York has now said she's not going to pass through the no tax on tips that the one big beautiful bill has granted on federal taxes. So if you're a waiter or a person who gets tips in the state of New York, the state taxes are expecting you to pay income tax on your tips. And the governor said, we don't care what the federal government, and it's just because of Trump. It's got to be just because of Trump. So I'm very concerned. I want New York to be great again. I want New York to be what it was before the crazies took over. And I'm very worried about Mondami, but the pendulum may have to swing very far left before it comes back again. We shall see, but thank you. Let's get to Mike in Manassas, Virginia. Hello, Mike.
Good afternoon. I was a landlord in Washington, D.C. for 31 years, and
wow.
D.C. has something called TOPA, and now they've added something called DOPA. TOPA is Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, which sounds just about the same as Chicago and New York. DOPA is District, meaning District of Columbia, District Opportunity to Purchase Act. So I'm sure that this proposed city law is called in New York is called COP, City Opportunity to Purchase. And the way these things work is the tenants or third parties almost never end up purchasing the buildings. What it is it's an extortion scheme where they can endlessly delay, just like you were saying a moment ago, they can endlessly delay the sale of a building by a private party offers, a certain amount. Then the city or tenants or some nonprofit scam operation, they have up to, in the District of Columbia, they have up to 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, depending on the size of the building, to come up with a matching offer. Well, the private party is not going to sit there for 3 or 6 or 9 months holding it up. Instead, they're going to go buy something in Virginia or Maryland, So what I did when I sold my building is there's two ways to get out of this. One is you can pay a fee to exempt yourself to get out. You can pay,
of course.
To pay off the tenants. Yep, and you can pay what is legalized extortion to either the tenants or third party or the city. I chose not to pay the extortion fee. Instead, I let the units in my building, more and more of them, vacant until it was no longer covered under the TOPA or the DOPA laws. Also, I lived in the building myself, so I had a kind of an advantage. So I played the little narrow exemption game that I was able to. But for most of the owners who were selling, I'm talking, this is how I paid for my retirement. 4, 5, 6, 8 unit buildings.
Yeah.
You have to pay an extortion fee, and in the District of Columbia, there is an entire section of lawyers. There are lawyers who make their entire career specializing in representing tenants and representing these scam nonprofits, negotiating extortion fees. That's their entire law practice is negotiating extortion fees and then taking a commission, with the tenant getting whatever 2/3 and the lawyer getting 1/3. So my way out of that was I ended up losing about $40,000-$50,000 in rents over the course of about 6 months, gradually emptying out the building, and then I was able to just put it up for sale and got myself exempted. But for most people, they can't, either they don't plan it out that well, they have an emergency they have to sell. So this is spreading, and it is bad news. Bad news.
It's very bad news. Thank you for sharing your story, Mike. I appreciate it. It's really bad news. Let me grab one more call before we take a break. Greg in Stafford, Virginia. Greg, you have an idea for Chicago's snowplow to be named?
Yes, sir. Since we call all these young kids these days snowflakes, how about the Trump snowflake remover?
Well, I like it. I like the Trump snowflake remover, but I'm doubtful that the city of Chicago will allow that to happen unless it's overwhelmed with votes. We got to look into how the voting is handled. Probably a whole bunch of dead people voting. We will see. Thank you, Greg. The Trump snowflake remover. We've had some positive reaction to the Hunter Biden naming of the snowplow. We'll see what happens. It's Michael Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show. It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka wrapping up today's edition. Tomorrow will be the year-end edition of the Chris Plant Show. We will put a bow on 2025, and if you want to join us and talk about some of your favorite moments from the past year, I already have a list I'm working on, so I'm hoping you will be part of it. We'll be looking at some of the good news. Yesterday, there was a late entry into the good news department. Dr. Oz announced the Trump administration is putting $50 billion with a B, $50 billion into rural health care, which is something we've been told by the left for months now. We've been told that, the Trump administration is taking health care away from rural communities. They're stripping the money. Dr. Oz would disagree.
Today's the day where 50 states are going to find out exactly how much money they're getting from the Rural Health Transformation Fund. This massive $50 billion that the president and Congress are giving to our governors, and every state applied, and every state's going to get money. But how much money, you'll find out today. But here's the story. If you're out there as a practicing physician, a hospital, a patient, the money is given today with the belief that you can deliver on what you promised us. But it's given over 5 years. So over time, we're going to innovate and iterate and make the system work even better. We already have so many brilliant ideas, from drones delivering medications to people being able to practice at the height of their licensure, like nurses and pharmacists, to robotic systems to allow us to ultrasound moms who have babies or in their belly, but they're in remote areas. Wonderful concepts. But every year, we're going to audit the system, and we're going to ask you to do even better than the year before.
I like the idea that, hey, we're giving money to all these communities, but guess what? We're also going to audit every year to make sure you're using it properly. And as you listen to Dr. Oz and you see the innovation and energy he's bringing to CMS and bringing better use of your money to the healthcare system, I just think, Pennsylvania, you guys screwed up. He could have been your senator, but you chose differently. And you've got Fetterman. And now the Democrats are actually trying to throw Fetterman out of there. And trust me, they will. They'll primary him. But the good news parade will continue tomorrow. We'll get into that. Maybe we'll have a few more names for the Chicago snowplow. And tomorrow is the last day, the final day for something that I think many of us grew up with. After tomorrow, there will be no more MTV. Wow. Now I'll have to think of the best and worst videos I ever saw on MTV. After 40 years going away, poof. Frankly, it went away about 20, 25 years ago, but that's a different story. We'll watch all the news and reconvene tomorrow. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jasmine.